Man, that is great. Happy almost Valentine's Day, John.
Happy almost Valentine's Day to you as well.
This is awesome. We, as you all know, we love a good excuse to party and have some fun.
Any excuse.
Yeah, literally any excuse. I went out to buy a single rose today, and I had no luck. So hopefully, I can find some for this weekend, because I thought that'd be like a nice touch with the suit up theme, but no dice there.
Well, sometimes you swing for the fences and you don't quite make it, but it's fine.
No kidding.
We've got a home run on deck tonight, though.
Yeah, hell yeah, we do. Thank you so much for joining us, everybody. It is Tuesday, so it is time for Weekly Whiskey. Let us know if you're drinking something good. We are pumped. We have some great stuff here tonight. But before we get to that, let's hit a little bit of our bourbon news. It's been a crazy week. Last week, we rolled out the very end of the Russells. That is completely sold out. The Smooth Ambler are shipping right now. Appreciate everyone's patience there. Lots of COVID-related delays, but those barrels are going out. And I think mine is actually in the mail as well. And our Elijah Craig is going to go on sale, I think, probably end of this week, beginning of next week, along with some Whistle Pig, Jack Daniel's single barrel proof. Let's see what else. We had some fun stuff. I've definitely renewed another Russell's, so that's happening. Renewed another Knob Creek. And I think, lots more rye. Oh, and a Bullet single barrel. I'm super pumped about that one. So the news is a flowing. Have you had any of those lately, John? Bullet single barrel?
No, not. Geez, probably not since like summertime.
Okay. But
I'm excited to get into more of it, though.
Those things are fire. We have the kit on the way, which will be super fun. We'll do a live stream here for it. But I think that wraps up our bourbon news. So let's go ahead and talk about tonight. We have a great guest. You guys have seen him before. He's always a blast. It's super great to have him back. And
to the show.
Yeah, this is Will Schragis from Barrell Craft Spirits. He is our unofficial official holiday correspondent.
Best thing I do at my job.
I love it, man. It's good to have you back.
Yeah, I'm so glad it was Suit Up Day, but I figured I should be the and I say this in a good way, not a bad way, the spinster, in that I have a job and people judge me for it. Cat lady suit for you guys.
Man, that is fantastic.
Cat lady suits are like my fourth favorite type of suit, man. You're right on the money.
Yeah. Ryan B made a great comment. Yeah, we were the best dressed until Will rolled in. He has definitely taken the cake with this one. That's crazy. I used to back in university, I bought a suit from Goodwill. It was an original Sears and Roebuck like jacket from like the 60s.
Wow.
And it was like, I mean, it was obscene. It was just the worst, but yours definitely is much better than that. That's awesome.
Anyway, I guess, yeah, thank you so much for having me again. I always leave the broadcast with you guys just thinking so much about the whiskey industry and like what you guys are drinking and what Barrell is producing. And so it's just really exciting to be on.
Oh, good.
We always have such a good time.
We have a blast. And you guys, it's kind of fun because, sometimes we're like, oh, hopefully they have new stuff to cover because it's a new quarter. And like, I mean, looking at some of the stuff we have to taste tonight, like you guys always are just like balls to the wall in so many different directions. It's super cool. Like, I don't know, I'm looking at like a Riesling finish here, which is never something I thought I'd see in the world of whiskey, but here we are with Jay Weimer Riesling finish. But let's dive in. What should we start with tonight? I know we talked about this for a second. I forgot every word you said.
That we should start with DHR1, the Riesling finish.
Okay, great.
Perfect.
Different Riesling finishes that we're tasting. I know the last time I was here, we talked about the private release whiskey program a little bit, which is our sort of synthesis of single barrel programs where we want to give people and clubs and groups and stores and distributors a chance to have things that are really exclusive and small production, but also want to still be able to blend. And so they're all blends using a single barrel or a single cask as a finishing cask, but also a marrying cask within the private release whiskey program. If you look at these labels, I know these are sample labels, but they have a 4-digit code. This is DHR1 and DHR3. If there's 2 letters, DH, that means it's a finished whiskey. 2 letters to us in our codes means finished whiskey. If there's 3 letters, it means it's a finished whiskey that names the producer that the cask came from on the label of the product from us. And so these are both Herman J. Weimer, which is one of the oldest, most well-respected sort of German and Austrian style producers in the Finger Lakes of New York. Although they, I think, would argue that they're New York Finger Lake style, that they're not German or Austrian style. And they make a very small amount of noble rot or sort of like raisinated dessert wine. And so this first one is finished in that it's a Trockenbaron Auslese style, but of course it's not Trockenbaron Auslese because it's not from Germany. And these two whiskeys are the same exact blend of whiskey put into two different casks from them. So the first one is their, I don't want to say generic, but it's their blend of TBA style wines from all of the Rieslings from all of their vineyards.
Okay. Ooh, that's wild. That's fun. This is actually very well placed because I was just drinking Riesling with dinner. I shit you not.
Yeah, I like that a lot.
Wow. That's I was afraid the Riesling might be a little bit strong with the whiskey. It might sweeten it up too much, but this has really, really nice structure and balance to it.
Yeah, I was a little scared of that too when I was telling Will backstage that I cracked one of these open just to smell it. And it's just like, whoa, I need to try that actually. I had planned on pouring the Armida or one of the others in there, but as soon as I cracked open that Riesling finish, I had to try it out. And I'm glad I did because it's really, really nice. It's got, like you said, it's an awesome balance. It's not sweet. It's not syrupy.
Wow. This is so, and I won't claim to know everything about American whiskey, but I cannot think of another that was finished in Riesling vessels. Is this accurate to say this is probably one of the first ones?
I don't know of one.
Okay.
I don't either. Never even heard of it.
There are a couple of whiskeys, some from us also, but also some other companies finished in ice wine, which is often made out of Riesling. And so I don't know of one that's made in American ice wine, but I'm sure one exists somewhere. But there's definitely, I know there's the Glenfiddich release that was done in ice wine a couple years ago.
Sure.
And since then, there's been a couple others. But we have some releases that are in ice wine, in German ice wine, and in New York ice wine, and in Washington State ice wine as well. But Herman J. Weimer would like me to point out that these are not ice wine. They're Trockenbaron Auslese style.
Okay. No, that's great. I mean, as someone who actually, I got into wine via ice wine, which is like kind of the total ass backwards way to get into wine whatsoever. Yeah. But that's really cool because, Glenfiddich, I think it was Winter Storm or Winter Phoenix or something like that. Was their ice wine release, but it was also kind of mediocre. This is really nice. Yeah, it's interesting.
How long was the finish on these?
Someone was just asking that. I believe these were in the finish for a little under 3 months.
Mm-hmm.
We pulled samples at about 2 weeks, and then again at about a month, and then again at about 2 months. And we don't harvest secondary maturation or finishing barrels until the two samples taste the same to us in a 2 week to month period. Some of them we end up leaving for a lot longer, but usually the trick is about 2 months, and then it stays the same until you get into a secondary maturation, which is another like 6 months or so.
Okay. Wow. I'm actually really
good.
No, I was just saying the complexity here is, most things when I think of, we hit it with a port wine, we hit it with a dessert wine, we hit it with a very sweet white wine. Like you don't usually expect balance or, that nice complexity and structure, but
and what gets me a lot of times with the American whiskeys is they can come through as kind of like a one-trick pony where you kind of get everything on the nose that you're going to get throughout the rest of the pour. And this one, man, I was kind of expecting that on this, to be honest with you, thinking it would be fairly simple whiskey with finish to it that would sweeten it up. But it's actually like, man, they really work together super, super well.
What I find so curious about it is there's this herbaceous bit on the nose and in like the cadence, like the moment where the mid palate becomes the finish, that I liken to like almost a Canadian rye kind of style, but it's not Canadian. There's no Canadian rye in it. And I think it's just that there's no virgin oak to hide behind. And so there's like, it's this, the vast majority of this blend is 18 years old. So it's like, it's old, unoaked American whiskey.
Okay.
There's little bits of younger 6 and 7 and 8 year old Kentucky bourbon and Kentucky rye that we use to sort of beef out tannin and stuff. But like the base of this is 18-year-old whiskey. And so there's this just kind of like tertiary, almost like rancio quality to it that I like a lot. And it's always really impressive to me when Nick and Joe and Trip have these sexy finishes and they still like don't let it overwhelm the whiskey too much.
Yeah, the whiskey shows off.
It really does. And it actually, so I was tasting, not to give anything away, I was actually tasting some more Alberta rye earlier today for a couple upcoming selections. And I'm amazed at like, those ryes are obviously a little heavier in the brown sugar, but this reminds me a lot of that kind of Canadian column distillate that's like well aged as well, with like that nice kind of white wine sweetness on the finish.
Yeah. So I don't want to forget about this whiskey, but to move on, just because we have other glasses, and I want to pan back into the rabbit hole a little bit. The second whiskey we're drinking, DHR3.
Yep.
Exact same base whiskey. It's finished in the single vineyard expression of that exact same wine. And so this is the Magdalena Vineyard Noble Rot Riesling dessert wine from Herman J. Weimer finish. And I specifically chose this one to send to you because the Magdalena Vineyard is a really historic vineyard in American wine history.
Great.
And it was actually the impetus for this entire project because Nick and I were just nerding out about the Magdalena Vineyard, and we like randomly sent an email to Weimer and asked if we could do something, and they said yes, and then it became this project.
That's so cool.
The Magdalena Vineyard sits on the western coast of Seneca Lake, and Herman J. Weimer didn't always, they were a major winery, but they didn't always own it. And there were some really, really terrible frosts. I want to say it was the early 90s, but I'm not sure. And the Magdalena Vineyard was the only vineyard that survived. The grapes survived that year on Seneca Lake. And the owner of Weimer said, I'm buying that vineyard. Don't care. That's the best. Like he judged based on the vintage was so bad that everyone lost their fruit except for the one vineyard. He was like, that's the one now.
That's the one.
And there's a lot of wines that come out of that vineyard, but this particular dessert wine, they only make one barrel a year. And so they gave us their one barrel that they have.
Oh, shit. That's awesome. I won't ask how much something like that costs because that sounds bonkers, but I mean, to get the one barrel, that's pretty neat.
There's a third that we didn't send you because there's a lot of whiskeys to try, but which is the Joseph Vineyard, which is another single vineyard release they do, which came out a little bit more syrupy than these did, but in a really beautiful way. But I think the Magdalena has a little bit more concentration. You get the Riesling a little bit more, and the Joseph even more, I think.
Yeah, it's very apparent on the nose. It's not more like extracted, but there's definitely a bit more saturation to it, but in a good way. It's still not like syrupy or cloying or anything, which is really nice.
Yeah, I find it a little easier to drink, but a little less interesting, I think
that seems fair. That's this is one like I'm gonna go take whatever's left of this and like put it in the back of a cabinet for a while, so I don't just take it upstairs and sit on my couch and just like.
Yeah, I could put a straw right in that bottle.
That's cool though. I mean, so I'm curious because like this seems like a trend with Barrell where you guys are like, hey, let's do it. Nah, they won't let us, but let's ask them anyways. And then they're like, oh yeah, let's do that. I mean, this is probably like, because I mean, you guys have gotten on the Calvados train and stuff like that with I guess apple brandy for like dovetail and stuff, but it's really cool to see this level of experimentation and like, I won't say unhinged because that has like a negative connotation, but like there's no holds like barred like approach, like, I don't know, let's do it. Let's see if someone will let us. And then like, you know, just like this, you got their one barrel. That's pretty sweet.
I think part of it is picking companies that you know are like-minded.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Herman J. Weimer and we share distribution in New York, New Jersey. And so we knew their company already. Like okay. When I was working in wine, worked with their wines, and I knew some people that worked for them, but also we know their biggest representation, and we see each other, or until this year, saw each other at events and stuff. But also, I think there's a really wonderful like-mindedness and camaraderie with independent producers in America that spans more than just the whiskey world or the spirits world. It's also the beer world and the foodstuffs world and the wine world. And that if someone emails you and says, we love what you're doing and we would like to do a project with you, all you have to do is sell us things and sign a piece of paper saying you won't sue us for using your name. Most people say we'd like to try it, but like other than that, absolutely. We've hit very, very little feedback, very little. Anyone that we've contacted to do a project with, where we want to produce the whiskey. It's our whiskey, but we want to make sure that people know that we're using like the most carefully picked out and interesting ingredients. Pretty much everyone said yes. The only times that people have said no have been like whiskey companies that see us as competitors.
Okay, I guess that checks out. I mean, it's silly, but like I can understand their reason.
Yeah, I can understand it too. And what we've learned with the private release program is we don't want all of our private releases to be so like almost intimidatingly engaging with what they're finished in. There's the best sellers are the Oloroso sherry finishes. That's the one that people ask for the most.
Really?
And to some extent port as well. But Oloroso sherry is really the one that sells the most. But with each set that we do, we want to highlight a couple of producers that we feel are making really interesting products around the world, and also partner with people that we really admire. So we have we've Park Cognac finishes coming out soon.
Yes.
Cool.
And I'm not sure if I can say it out loud, but a very, very influential Barolo producer, which was a lot of work. But
okay, I'm here for it.
And then they're out already, but we have 7 different single vineyard finishes from Marine Layer in Sonoma. And so it's the same whiskey. It's the exact same project, but with them. So it's 7 different single vineyards, whereas this was 3 different single vineyards, or 3 different wines, 2 single vineyards.
Cool.
But there's only a cask of each. So you can actually go on our website. They're all for sale on our website right now. There's like 12 bottles or so of each available. And
no
they
kidding.
don't sell out that quickly because there's so many options that we just see like, 1 or 2 of a different one sell every day.
Oh man, it's a good thing that my
where you could get that.
Oh, it said I was gonna say it's a good thing my wallet isn't within reach right now, because I just like bow out of this live stream real quick.
I know. Last time we were here, you sold me a lot more than I sold you.
That's right. Yeah, we were talking aficionados brandy. That was a good time. That was yeah. I mean, those are crazy. That's another conversation for another time. But
I did get both of the first batches at Dovetail though, so that worked out good.
Oh, that's right.
The batch 1 and 2 when you guys released the library to Sealbox.
Yeah, that was really fun. This is why I love
awesome
the show, because I can tell the like sort of real story behind things. We had been holding back library stuff in our facility in Louisville for people to taste when they visited, and we just had this backlog of like, we still saved some of it, but we had more than we needed because nobody had been there to taste for so long. But because we didn't have whole cases, it was really complicated for us to move it into normal distribution. And so we had to create an item that was like random pallet, backlog pallet, and put a single price on it. And Blake from Sealbox agreed to buy it, and then like he did the work of sort of fishing through it and naming everything. So it wasn't even that we didn't want to do the work. We knew it was on the pallet, but because of the system of like registration and SKU management within warehouses, we weren't able to do it the way that it should have been done. But it ended up working out really well. A lot of people got stuff that they were looking for in a place that you can't always do it. And so we're going to keep doing it with him. It's a fix for a problem that shouldn't be a problem.
No, that's great. I mean, yeah, both John and I bought Dovetail 1, 2, and 3, and I bought something else. My box actually is on the way, I think. I haven't received mine yet. It's been a little while, but yeah, I bought Dovetail 1, 2, and 3, and then something else random that caught my eye, where I was like,
I remember
it's
we were
late at
talking
night.
about it.
Yeah. I YOLO'd on something. It'll actually be kind of a surprise when it shows up, because like who knows at this point. But yeah, it was really cool. Like that whole release was cool, and it was really cool to see people react to like Sealbox having that and be like, what? Oh my God, like this is super cool. And then like everyone just like dove right in.
And to Blake's credit, like he did a lot of boring work. He looked up bottling dates per bottle on so many things and made sure that it was like set up that the right thing would ship, because the UPCs are the same. And so yeah.
I mean, he told us, he was like, I've been working on this for a long time. We're like, that's
yeah.
I can see why. I didn't know the UPCs were the same. I was like, surely they're all just scan the barcode, boom, ding, done.
No, for if in a barrel project and Dovetail, we have to keep the UPCs the same for chains, or else we have to they only reset once or twice a year, and if you change the UPC, it doesn't backfill.
Man, all of this conversation makes me so glad that I did not go into like supply chain management or management information systems or anything like that. Thank God.
It's funny. My sister is a professional organizer, and we love having conversations about how like our jobs have this like weird overlap of like logistics problem solving. Except for her, it's usually like, how do we make sure that like this bus company gets these people to the right place or whatnot? Mm-hmm. And for me, it's like, how do I make sure that this trucking company gets the whiskey to the right place? And she's the smart one in the family. But
I mean, it sounds like you have no shortage of problems yourself. Yeah. That's great.
I think looking back on these between DHI 1 and 3, I like 3 a little better. But I mean, it's close.
Neck and neck.
Yeah. I think there's just a little bit more of that grape on 3, and it doesn't come through in a sweet way, though. And I think that's what I like about it.
I happen to like 1 only because 1 is really difficult, and I'm kind of a sucker for difficult whiskeys. But 3 to me is the one, if there's anyone listening that is like trying to build out a quirky collection, just because like it calls out such a historic vineyard, but an East Coast historic vineyard. So it's like not really in wine lore of America the way that it should be. But actually, like, New York is the 3rd biggest producing state of wine, and it's like debatably the most important vineyard in New York. And so it's a really cool bottle in my mind.
Is that bottle on your website now? Could somebody go grab some of it?
I believe it is. If you go to the buy now on our website. Yeah.
All right, Chad, go ahead and order up.
Nailed it. Synergy.
I don't want to feel like I'm giving the hard sell. I just, if someone's deciding between the two and watching us taste that, purely from a like talking about it standpoint, I feel like the Magdalena Vineyard is a really interesting.
It's cool. I mean, this is great stuff. Really, really enjoy it.
It instantly changed my mind when I smelled it, because I was just like, I'm not really crazy about some of the finished American whiskeys. We'll see what it comes out as. And then right on the nose, like, no, okay, well, let's just try this.
Oh man, right between what we're talking about.
Yeah,
Ryan B in the chat just
fires it up.
Fucking softball, just right down the center. Will hit us, man.
Yeah,
here's a difficult one for you.
Unfortunately, it's like settling for bottling right now, so we weren't able to get samples out. But our newest major release. So if Dovetail was like our big finished and blended whiskey product all of last year, and then at the end of last year we released Armida for the first time, which is finally available in distribution in general regularity right now. We have the 3rd and final installment of that 3 different finishes blended together category. We really liked the symmetry of having 3 whiskeys, like a bourbon base, which is Armida, a whiskey base, which is Dovetail, and a rye base, which is Seagrass, that each have 3 different finishes. It's like, in my head, it's like a Rubik's Cube of finishes. And it will be out. It is available to distributors on March 2nd. And so probably March 9th is when you will see it at like the first really cutthroat stores. And then mid-April or so is when it'll really start popping up. And it is a blend of Canadian and Indiana rye, minimum 4 years, but as old as, I think there's some 18-year-old Canadian whiskey in it, but it's mostly 14-year-old Canadian whiskey. And it is finished separately in Martinique Rum Agricole casks. It does not say Rum Agricole, it just says Martinique Rum on the label.
I wondered.
And then Malmsey Madeira barrels and apricot brandy casks. And so it is a really wild spirit, like Armida and like Dovetail. It's very much a whiskey, and it's very much a rye whiskey, but it is unlike anything else that's out there. And I really hope to come back in a month or two, whatever holiday you want me on next, and taste it, because I'm really curious what you guys think of it.
Oh,
I think that's great. Yeah, we were talking Easter Bunny season. I think that lines up. We'll check the calendar, but I think that might be
we'll have samples out by then. So
hot diggity. Yeah, that sounds super cool.
I'm gonna hit him with the label again here real quick while we
throw it on up there. I was interested why you guys didn't call out Martinique Agricole, but your explanation there works just fine.
Part of it is that Rum Agricole is AOC protected.
Yes.
And so there's though I think it would have been fine, there was a little bit of a respect for the rum agricole producing region. But also that label is really busy. And putting AOC Rum Agricole Martinique on it with 2 other, there's a reason we didn't put Malmsey on there as well. That it just
yeah, a lot of alphabet soup there.
And and so there is a little bit of a stylistic thing about what to put on the label, and also that it's rum. Rum agricole is a style of rum, and so we had to limit ourselves somewhere.
That's fair. I really like the actual grass accent that's going on at the very top of the green. I thought that was a nice, subtle, understated touch.
Cool. Thank you.
It's cool though. It's yeah, I mean, I saw the roll into the TTP a little while ago and was like, okay, like file this away to stuff to talk to
just sign me up
to Will about like shortly. Yep. That's really cool. But
cool. Are we ready to move on?
Hell yeah. I think what should we hit next?
We should probably drink Bourbon 28 next.
Excellent.
Yeah, let's do that.
We're just like synced up. I have 28 in my hands right now.
So again, you guys are the first you are sort of industry people, but non-specifically industry people to try Bourbon 28. This is being released March 1st.
Okay.
And this is a blend of 10 and 11-year-old barrels. A little bit of high rye, a little bit of high rick. But it's a less complicated blend than we usually make, only because it was really a marriage of 2 sets that Nick, Joe, and Tripp liked together. 27, if you've had it, was a very, very complicated blend. It was a lot of different things at the same time.
27 is good.
And so almost in the spirit of just like keeping the variability of them separately, we wanted to do a slightly older age statement, and we want to do a slightly more sort of power-driven blend for this one.
Okay. Oh. Wowzers.
So it's 108 proof, and I get the like very sort of like skinned almond or polished almond sort of nose to it. And it's very, and the like kind of stone minerality sort of thing. It's a very slick whiskey. It like really holds itself together in the mouth a lot.
I like that. It is slick.
I would say it reminds me of amaretto, slate, and like a kind of a brown butter character all bundled together.
Yeah, I get the brown butter right on the nose.
And then I get this kind of like almost like musty peppery thing, like white pepper.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Which I like a lot about it too. It's not a really peppery or really spicy bourbon. It's mostly a really round, self-containing bourbon, but it has that touch of pepper in it that I really like.
It does have that. There's a little bit of fruit to get in there too.
Yeah, there's like a nice amaretto, like apricot kind of.
I was gonna say apricot, or maybe even like a nectarine. There's some like some type of stone fruit in there. It's pretty nice on the mid palate.
Yeah, very light citrus, but really enjoyable. Yeah. That's I do like it because some of these big, bold, like this is coming in with the brown butter. Like I expect like a big peppery finish to kind of give it that complexity and that roundness. But the amaretto note really, really kind of works for me. I can't remember the last time I had amaretto, but it's like a very striking resemblance to.
Yeah, I can see that.
Maybe even a little bit of plum. Like it's first like amaretto sweet, then there's like a little like nectarine, tangerine, plum, maybe faint cherry, and then it goes into like brown sugar, light pepper. But the complexity is really interesting. Oh man,
I like that.
I also really like that it really flirts with the line of being a very oak-driven bourbon, but it's not quite there.
Right.
And I always really appreciate, you guys probably hear me say this too often, but I really appreciate in the American whiskey canon when people are restrained with oak, that they don't just rely on oak to be all the flavor.
No, right. I could not agree more, especially someone, and John and I talk about this, I mean, probably every goddamn episode, but like.
Pretty much.
Like I'm super sensitive to like overly tannic things in a way that I don't typically enjoy. And this ride's like the oak structure is there, like it's very round, full bodied, but it doesn't dive right into being like tannic or really drying on the palate. Like even like on the finish, like it still feels pretty, not sweet, but like there's a lot of character that sticks around that doesn't just wisp away your palate, which I enjoy. Too much oak kind of like immediately like turns me off, which is interesting.
it's interesting because it turns me off too, but it also feels really easy. Like you can cover up a lot with oak. It's kind of like you can cover up a lot with hops in beer.
Yeah,
I don't like really hoppy beer, but I'm not impressed by really hoppy beer.
Yeah, like throwing hops at all your problems is kind of like we'll just throw some oak at it, and eventually it'll be fine. And everyone loves those old tannic bourbons anyways, but it's not really the case.
Right, just sort of leave it till no one notices anymore.
Yeah, that finish hangs on a long time with that pepper kick too. That's good.
Yeah. This so I like the Riesling stuff, but 28 might be my favorite, having just recently drank 26 and 27 for other purposes. This is really nice.
Oh, cool. Thank you. And I
I'm
think
trying to think
about, but I'm not going to say anything.
Say what now?
I feel like you just gave me a hint on something that I don't.
Oh no, I mean I think the last time we were talking together we had 26, which I liked then, but I like 28 more now. Was it 26? I think we had
26, 27 last time. Yeah.
Okay. I mean,
I'm trying to remember back if it was 22 or 23 that I really liked. And it could have been 25.
A lot.
It might have been.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to remember now. I don't have any of that to do side by side. I'm wondering which one of those I would like. This just carries a lot of maturity to it.
Yeah, I think also it's there's a lot of power because it's really, even though there's a couple of other sort of contrast blends into it, it's really two thoughts. It's like the 10-year-old, like slightly spicier, a little more angular, a little more sort of distillate driven, and the 11-year-old slightly oakier. But it's really a blend of two major ingredients with just a barrel or two of some other ingredients blended into it. And so we haven't had a release like that in a while that's so driven by two thoughts. Everything else has been a balance of so many different ideas. So it's nice. It was refreshing to me, to know that Joe and Trip and Nick are like, they're really varying the ideas behind what they're blending.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's totally different than 27, but I mean, not in a bad way either. Jeez. I think these last like 5 or 6 batches you guys have done have all been really good, actually.
Thank you. I agree though. 27 was probably my favorite of the, like, maybe my favorite of last year in general, even though it came out in December. I liked 23 a lot too, but 27 was probably my favorite.
Yeah, 27 was very nice.
There we go. Just bumping the sales for you real quick.
It's good. I mean, it's cool to see this like stunning array of, hey, because some places, and it kind of reminds me of the craft beer movement, right? Like some places are just like, you know what, we're off in left field. We are licking batteries. We're just going fucking crazy, doing everything wild that we ever, like PB&J beer. Like, let's do it. It's cool to see. I see both sides of that house in Barrell, which is like, hey, batch this. We're going to make an extremely classic bourbon with, some flair to it, but nothing too crazy. Like add some really nice character. And then also let's go off in left field, but we're going to come back. And it's, I feel like in the American whiskey space, either we see people doing just crazy stuff or like very classic stuff. And it's nice to see that kind of diversification in your portfolio. Like sometimes, like whenever these boxes show up, like I never know what's going to be inside, but I know that there's always going to be a blend of like, hey, very classic bourbon blend. We went for structure, complexity. Oh, and also we did this bad shit crazy thing on the side that's also pretty good. And it's really cool to see that embodiment, because I always think of places like Corsair that just kind of seem to just be like, let's go as crazy as possible and someone's going to be into it. But, it's kind of exclusive in its own way. And like you have to want like the weirdest whiskey possible to enjoy it. And Barrell seems to really kind of hit to both of those crowds.
I think also you can make whiskey that is pushing the envelope conceptually and still from a flavor profile is not too daunting for people. I feel like Corsair is I have so much respect for Corsair as a craft distillery that was ahead of the game on everyone else and really innovated, made so many things possible for so many other whiskey distilleries in America. But I think where they lost themselves a little bit for a while, and I think they've righted the ship a little bit, is they had like the triple smoke and things like, which like they were fascinating, but I don't know anyone who finished their bottle of that whiskey.
Right.
I still have some. It's like 5 years old.
And it's cool. Like no one throws it out, but it's like, you don't want to drink all of it. And we are really careful that no matter how crazy we get, we want to have whiskeys that people like to drink also. So it's like it's a conversation piece, but it's a while you're drinking it conversation piece. To that point, though, we this year, even though we're continuing to do all of these private releases and experimental things, we, from a sales and strategy perspective, have really paired into, we're concentrating on the batches of bourbon, Dovetail, Armida, Seagrass. There's so much going on in that like classic bourbon blend and then 3 really exotic but always available blends. And we're trying to rein in what we concentrate on a little bit because we love the American Battered Malt and we love the Infinite Barrel Project. We love the rum blends. But we have so much to talk about in those 4 items. And we got towards the end of last year, I think we got a little bit lost in our own portfolio. And so we're really trying to concentrate on like, we have probably the craziest core in the country, but it still is a core SKU. So we're still, single barrel program is still there for sure. And the private release program is still there for sure. But we're making sure that from a distribution standpoint, like we're not going to focus on the St. Agrestis Amaro finish over Seagrass when we're releasing it, even though they're both coming out. Anyway, on that note, we sent you a really special sample of the rum, and we can go to it now, but it is hard to come back from if you want to talk about something else first.
Let's hit the Armida first, just so, like you said, going back into, I mean, Armida's pretty crazy too, but.
Well, once we go pirate, we'll stay pirate. How about that?
Ooh, I like it.
At least, I mean, I know that's how I go. Once I start drinking rum,
you're always a pirate.
Yeah. I mean, the Armida is super fun. It's been a hot minute since I had it. It was probably last stream or slightly thereafter. But let's see. Yeah. This is a bourbon whiskey finished in pear brandy rum and Sicilian Amaro casks. That's always the. I don't know many other whiskey producers that are like kind of fucking around with Amaro, which is really cool too. I know a lot of people that just drink straight up Amaro, you know, because that's kind of the thing like Braulio or Fernet and stuff. But it's cool to see it featured in a whiskey.
Yeah, we actually have quite a few Amaro finishes right now because we just really like the way that they're coming out. So we have the Sicilian Amaro that we use in Armida, and then we also use that same finish Sicilian Amaro on private release rums and private release whiskeys. Mm-hmm. And then another one of our producer friends is St. Agrestis in Brooklyn.
Okay.
And we've done a series of releases with them. So there's 6 private release whiskeys that are finished in St. Agrestis as well.
I'm always amazed. Every time I smell Armida, it reminds me of, and this is going to sound like totally crazy, but it reminds me of smelling like potpourri, but in in an enticing way. Like a lot of people think of like grandma's potpourri in like an off-putting way, but like this is the most fragrant whiskey I think I've ever been near.
Yeah, the pear brandy is so volatile.
Yeah,
it really is.
Reaches right out.
And the journey of making Armida has been, we've learned so much about production planning because of how quickly it caught on. The first 600 cases or so were sold so quickly. And the pear brandy, like there's just not that many casks available, and each producer of pear brandy has very, very different casks. Yep. And so we started sourcing pear eau de vie and aging it ourselves in French oak so that we could dump it out and use those French oak casks to finish bourbon to make Armida. And so it's a 6-month process for us because we have to age the eau de vie first and then put the bourbon in and then let it finish. And we make a sort of mother blend of eau de vie now where we buy off the still pear brandy from, I think, 7 different farm distilleries around the country. And even this year, we didn't want to use all of it because we know that the crops are going to be different in the fall and that the eau de vie is going to be different. And we want to have a sort of consistency blender to bring that in as well. And so we are pretty confident we have enough that we don't have to allocate or limit Armida for the rest of the year, but it's going to be a kind of close. And we're going to have to make a decision at some point if we use the end of that eau de vie to condition more barrels or if we wait till we can get more to blend into it and then condition barrels again.
That's really fascinating. So tell me, what are you guys doing? And I understand this is proprietary and you can't talk about, what are you guys doing with eau de vie when you're done? You know, this is kind of like the kind of situation that Scotland is in right now, right? Where they have a shortage of sherry casks. So they're making a bunch of sherry so they can get access to the barrels, but then they don't have a lot of use for that sherry afterwards. What are you guys doing with the eau de vie when you're done with it?
We're just using it again because,
okay,
it just has oak and it goes back into the system. And so we might hit a moment, I don't know, 2 years from now where we feel like the conditioning brandy is so different than it used to be that it isn't producing the cask the same way. But at that point, we're going to have French oak aged pear brandy.
Okay.
So that's going to be really cool also.
Okay. You're leading into where I was hoping to go. Like, when are we going to see Barrell Craft eau de vie and or brandy?
I don't think it's going to be anytime soon, just because rum is a passion project enough for us, and rum is kind of in the general canon of the country. But there's 3 of us on this, and that makes up like 2 to 3% of the people who would be interested in a cask strength pear eau de vie.
Okay. That's fair.
Or pear brandy. It wouldn't be an eau de vie one.
Not everybody's as weird as Jay and I.
Yeah.
I mean, when you do though, let me know. And I'll just come.
The coolest project that has never come out, though, there's one retailer in Nashville that asks us about it every day. Not every day. Every time he talks to us, we distilled Dovetail. So we had an 160 proof Dovetail eau de vie.
Cool.
We've never used it for anything. There are only a couple gallons of it, but it was like trip one day, just like
what if?
What it was like, and it is really cool because I don't know if you've ever had like clarified old spirits, but the oak flavor stays, but it loses the scratchy tannin that gets lost in distillation. So you wind up with this really, really peculiar. Yeah,
I just started like sweating a little bit. That sounds really, really fascinating.
I'm not teasing a product. It's not coming out at all. It's just a thing that we've made. Although hopefully one day this year or next year, we'll be able to open up to the public again. And we do have it to taste.
Oh man. Okay.
Yeah. So I'm going to sign up early in the day to get in line for that.
I have a Post-it. I'm just going to.
Yep. Go ahead and make a note of that, Jay.
Right.
Write us a hall pass so we can get there early.
I'll hand it to my boss. Like, sorry, Jay could not come to work today because
Dovetail has been distilled.
Nobody will know anything what I'm talking about at my day job, but it will be worth it for the cop out.
Holy shit!
Maybe one day. That's the weirdest thing we've never released. I think.
That's like I can't say their name out loud because it technically doesn't exist, but a Milwaukee. No, sorry, not Milwaukee. I didn't say Milwaukee. Scratch that. Reverse it. A Wisconsin producer distilled a still proof gin with orange peel, white pepper, and Madagascar vanilla.
I'm in.
And I accidentally happened to some, and it's like 67 or 74%. And I'm just like, this is the craziest thing that I'm never, ever going to get to buy. I need to hold on to this. And that sounds exactly like the shenanigans you just mentioned.
If it were ever to be a thing that got released, part of the problem is that Dovetail is expensive to make already, and the yield is like 25%.
Wow. Okay, so, that makes sense too.
We're looking at like a $500 750 of 160 proof Dovetail eau de vie at that point. And so,
okay, now it makes sense. That's hefty,
and it exists for you to try one day.
Okay, well, we're there.
For me, yeah,
I will just hoist on down and get going with it. But
yeah, let's have a couple ounces of that tucked away in a vault for John and Jay. Man, this Armida is crazy. It could grow on you though. That finish is like,
I love it.
Crazy, peppery, fruity, all at the same time.
What I really like about it, in contrast to Dovetail, is Dovetail starts off in a way where it feels like a whiskey that has some comparisons to other whiskeys, and then it just sort of like opens up into this unlike anything else. And Armida's the nose on Armida, I feel like it's hard to place it in the whiskey category because it's so fragrant with the pear eau de vie. And it has a lot of sweetness up front, but the finish on Armida pulls it back into the fact that all of the ingredients were bourbon to start. It has the structure of a bourbon too.
It really does. It's like that balsamic character really comes in at the very end of the finish, which I find really interesting.
Very, very soft on the palate too.
Yeah, I find Armida to be especially dangerous. I feel I can drink it, a lot of it, very quickly, and it's not weak.
Yeah, this is like very. Yeah, I mean, it's
$1.14, $1.13.
Yeah, just under 57%. Yeah, this is one of those things where like it's complex enough to be interesting, but I like some pours. I sit down and I think to myself like, okay, I need to focus on the pour and what I'm drinking. Like Armida, kind of like the one of the Weimers we were talking about. Like I could sit down and just be like, yep, this is enjoyable. There's some complexity, but also like I'm just gonna watch this movie and continue to enjoy it. And oh no, it's gone, and now I can't see straight, which is not typically a risky thing, because like most bourbon, like what you're gonna get when you smell it. The taste follows through, the finish follows through. Like, okay, like yep, that was a bourbony bourbon. But this, the Armida has so much complexity that doesn't really demand like you don't have to dig super deep into it that I could drink. It's pretty dangerous stuff.
Yeah, I really like with Armida that you can bring it to like a group that's drinking bourbon or whiskey, and it doesn't feel out of place, but it winds up being like the bottle that people drink a lot of, because it's still very easy to enjoy in its peculiarities, as opposed to something that's like way smoked or has it. It's still within the canon of enjoyable really quick. Like, I don't know. I'm just really proud of the way that Nick and Joe and Trip put it together. And I'm happy to finally be able to like share it with people and be able to show them where to get it, because it was so tightly allocated for so long.
Yeah, I like it. And like that brings up a great point. Like it's hard to roll up to a bourbon tasting with like a really great peated scotch, right? Like that's just a little bit out there for most bourbon drinkers. But this, not to say that it's there to bridge, but it offers a lot of complexity that most bourbons don't have, and it kind of opens people's minds to like, maybe not everything tastes like caramel and oak, and without being like, oh, here's some Lefroy. Like, I hope you don't hate it. Like, like no one's gonna like it at a bourbon tasting. Like, Armida stands a chance though.
Yeah, cool. Thank you.
But cool. What do you? Let's get south of the border here. We've been holding off on the rum, but I'm actually pretty pumped for this one, because I've been looking forward to it for a long time. The 14-year rum, correct?
Yeah. So we call this the BCS rum, or the gray label rum. This one happens to be a 14-year-old, but it's a blend of 3 rums. And there are, when we put the BCS rum together, it's about 600 bottles. It's a really, really small release.
Okay.
And part of that is because we usually can only get 1 cask of the things that we're using for it. And the other part of it is that it's a $250 bottle of rum, and we're not going to twist anyone's arm to take it in. This is a blend of 3 rums. The first is the youngest, the 14-year-old, is a Barbados rum from a producer that I assume both of you like a lot, and people listening probably like a lot too, but I won't say out. But
I'll point that way.
A very, very well-respected rum producer in Barbados. The second is a 17-year-old Money Musk from Jamaica.
Okay. There it is.
So it's not a Dunder rum, but it's on the funkier side of non-Dunder rum.
Yeah.
And the third is a 21-year-old Guianese pot still rum from Diamond.
Yes. Okay. Cool. I got the funk, and I was like, there's a little bit more here. Diamond is a huge favorite of mine. And frustratingly so, every time I do a rum selection, Diamond comes in like second, so we never buy it.
Diamond's tough because their old rum is really expensive.
It's so expensive. It's bonkers.
But they can get it because it's great.
This noses very nicely.
We've only produced BCS rum twice because it's really that there's such cool rum available on the wholesale, the cask market.
Mm-hmm.
We want to participate, but we don't want to participate in the bulk inexpensive rum way. And so this is our like treat to ourselves to be able to blend once a year.
That's really cool. That is also a wide diversity of rums. Like that is a very, not holistic, but that combination of rums is not very often seen. Like the Barbados, Jamaica, Guineas, like that's a pretty, I won't say a bespoke or like pretty niche, but like it'd be hard to find this kind of blend elsewhere because most places, are focusing on blending in the same GI or the same DO, or, they're blending from various unaged stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. The Money Musk really shines through. I really I mean, I like Money Musk to begin with, but the other components are adding so much complexity that Money Musk typically does not have, which is really nice to see.
I feel like that 14-year pops out on the nose. You notice it right away for what that distillery
like honey, dark honey kind of nose.
Yeah, a little bit of like heavy sugar cane and like vanilla bean in there.
And then there's that like caramelized sugar piece and really round caramelized sugar piece from the Guyanese rum. In the middle of it is the funk, which I think comes through on the nose a lot, but it's not a funky rum on the palate. It's kind of a sipping rum on the palate.
Yeah, there's good spice to it too.
The funk is very, I won't say restrained, like the funk is there, but it knows its place, which is like a very pretentious way to say like the funk is well integrated. You know, some rums don't smell funky and then are, but.
And I mean, you guys know that we like working with Hamden and like we like funky rums, but not for this one.
Yeah.
Hampton, I think, would have stopped all over quite a bit of this.
1% Hamden would have.
Yeah, would have upset the balance there.
That's nice. I had an inkling for a lot of these things, but I had no idea what was going into the rum for this. Wow. And it's very, I mean, the mouthfeel is very nice for the proof. This is almost 65. Yeah, 65% almost.
Yeah.
Wowzers. That's
she's a beaut, Clark.
That's good stuff. It's fun. Man, it very rarely do I see diamond in blends too. Diamond. Sorry, I'm just like if I could buy more diamond, I would. I'm just like, woo, it's nice to see
a little
diamond.
bit of collection.
Damn, man, diamond.
The funk knows its place.
We'll get a weekly whiskey. The funk knows its place T-shirt. Like
we could probably put that as your quote from Mr. November on the weekly whiskey calendar, right?
Oh yeah, yeah. We got to figure out which charity we're benefiting with the weekly whiskey calendar.
That's right.
Well, maybe we'll solicit you. We'll get like ferrets and places.
We're gonna have our fur coat bearing amigo.
You just give me any excuse to look silly.
It reminds me, someone asked a question earlier, very early, and my suspicion is it was probably Lane, from what I know about Lane. Do you guys have any plans to do anything with unaged rum, or are you pretty much planning to stick with aged rums?
What's Lane?
We don't have any plans to do anything with unaged rum. I, from like not in my barrel world, really love using unaged rum from a cocktail perspective.
Yeah.
But our entire infrastructure is built around ultra premium bottles.
Sure.
It costs us a lot of money to produce labels, and our bottles are expensive, and we use real cork, and we just our bottling line is set up for our bottles. Every piece of what we make is designed so that there is the thought that is worthy of a 65 or 80 or 90 or 120 or $250 bottle. And I really hope that there are white rums that sort of blow open the market on really ultra premium unaged spirits. I know that Mezcal has done that, and there are a couple of European eau de vies that have done that. But it's not that we don't like it. It's that our company isn't really set up for that category. It wouldn't fit into what we're able to do. We are laying down a lot more younger rum, not a huge amount, but we expect to exist for a long time. And so we're investing in having things aging in stateside, which gives it a really different aging.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Interesting. Yeah. Continental is very different than tropical, obviously, as you know, but that's good to know.
And we do use some agricole, and the agricole we use is rum vieux. And so it's 3 and 4 year old for the most part. Our experience with agricole has been, when it gets old, it's delicious, but it's not really a good blender anymore because it's so delicate and it's not so aggressively agricole-y anymore. And so we like using 3 and 4 year old agricole as a blending component.
Okay. That reminds me of it was probably a couple of years ago now, 3 or 4 years. K&L released a bunch of lightly aged Clement agricole, but like it overproof percentages. And they just like ripped my head off day in and day out. And I was like, okay, like, this needs a little bit more time, like not much, but this is the roughest, most just like aggressive rum I've ever consumed from like it's near overproof. Like, okay.
Yeah. I really like white agricole, and I really like 4-year-old agricole, the VSOP agricole, and I really like super old, but you may as well be brandy agricole. But anything in between those, to me, it gets a little bit lost.
Yeah, it was like 2.5-year-old, and I was just like this is. It doesn't help. I was drinking it on a plane on the way to Hawaii, and I was like, this is not doing it for
not
me.
The answer.
It's not pain, but like this is taking work in a way that I did not expect. Yeah. But
would we go ahead and call that one punishing?
Yeah, it was punishing.
Yeah.
The airplane and Clement 2.5-year agricole was just straight up punishment. But the things we do for rum.
Speaking of cherished white spirits, I have a jar of off the still JM in my house. Rum JM is maybe the most beautiful distillery I've ever been to.
Okay.
And they pulled it right off the still, and I think it's like 137 or so, something like that. And it's just so the like kind of like carrot herbaceousness.
Yep.
Like sweet carrots is the way that I smell it. It's so much there. I won't let myself drink it. I just like opening it and like smelling it and dipping my pinky in every once in a while.
That is great. Well, yeah, I mean, JM is just beautiful from every angle. I'm envious that you have a jar to just kind of sniff around. That's kind of crazy.
If you, I'm going to get slammed for saying this on air, but if you are positioning yourself to be on media trips,
okay,
the Rum Clement, Rum JM, St. Lucia Distillers trip is so. I used to work for the company, and Ben Jones, who runs it, is such a good host, and the trip is so beautiful and fun. And the distilleries are really historic. It is it's one of the ones that's worth doing what you got to do to be invited onto the trip for. It's like it's not a stupid trip. It's a really, really cool trip, and you get to see things you wouldn't get to see otherwise.
Okay.
Yeah.
Noted. That yeah, we'll see when Whiskey Raiders hits it big and we run into Rum Raiders and go crazy, and I'll get myself down to JM. But that's a good tidbit to end on. We are coming up here at the top of the hour. I think we've hit, surprisingly, we're all still kind of upright. We normally we do 2 or 3 samples, but 5 is always a good number for a night with Will Schragis. Thank you again for joining us, Will. This has been awesome.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to taste Seagrass with you guys in a couple months.
Likewise. Yeah, I cannot wait. You'll be our we'll see how the timing lines up, but I think a good Easter correspondent would be an excellent overlap.
I think that works out.
Yeah.
I'll start painting eggs.
Excellent. Yeah.
Attaboy.
I love it. This has been fun. I love the Riesling. It's super fun. I'm a big fan of Riesling myself. Armida, the rum, and 028 were really good as well. If you're looking for more from John, you can find him at the Bourbon Finder or thebourbonfinder.com. He's on Instagram. As always, follow us on Weekly Whiskey. Will Schragis is a part of Barrell Craft Spirits. You can find them on Twitter, Facebook. I know their ads are running. They're on Instagram as well. Will, it's been a pleasure to have you. And I am Jay from whiskeyraiders.com. If you're looking for reviews, articles, new releases, aggregate scores, we are the kind of the wide world of whiskey reviews. But this has been awesome. Thank you all for joining us. We'll be back on Thursday with an After Hours. And it's been good to see you. Thanks for joining us, and cheers, guys. Will, we'll see you in the green room. Hang out. We'll have a few more drinks, but to everyone else, we'll say goodnight.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers.